wait, you're not Liz.
Yes, that's true. You can't get anything by you, Matt. But seriously, I'll do my best not to chase away any listeners until the real pro returns.
It's going to be great. This is Jonathan Costa, but we'll talk more about that. We're thrilled to have you. And speaking of pros, Jonathan, are you familiar with the work of Al Michaels?
Yes, in fact, I am. If you are any kind of sports fan, you know he's been calling big games and sports moments on national TV for years.
Nice. Do you have any specific memories of his game calling?
I think his most famous call might actually be the first that I remember. And honestly, I still get goosebumps when I think of it. Want me to give it a shot?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I don't think Liz is going to be offering any sports calls beyond poolside. So let's mix it up a little bit.
All right, here you go. You got 10 seconds. The countdown is going on right now. Morrow up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
Yes!
So, my young friend, do you know what that call refers to?
Was that the Russia-U.S. hockey team win in the Olympics?
That's correct. Al Michaels was 35 years old when he made that call in Lake Placid in 1980. I was just about to turn 18, and it was a singular moment that really united the country after some pretty dark economic and national stories in the late 70s. This was one of the biggest stories of the year, and it really set Al Michaels' career up from there. He was basically an unknown personality at that point.
Yeah, we could use a moment like that right about now, for sure. So, I ask because NBC has announced this super innovative approach to Olympic coverage for the upcoming Paris 2024 Summer Olympic Games. And it's going to feature, Jonathan, the AI-generated summaries narrated by the iconic voice of the legendary sportscaster Al Michaels, who you just tried to nail.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, and he was not into it, by the way, in the beginning. He's like, that does not sound good. And then they just kept doing a demo of what it was like, and he kind of came around. So here's what it's going to look like. There's going to be a recap. You're going to get this thing called your Daily Olympic Recap on Peacock. And this tool is going to give subscribers a customized 10-minute highlight package of the previous day's events. Now, what's cool about it is that they're all different. There's going to be like 7 million versions, which I can't wrap my brain around, right? So users will select 3 favorite sports on their preferred topics, and they can also get like behind the scenes, top competition, viral moments, and they're going to get tailored content. This will be available starting on July 27th. So it's going to be interesting to see. I listened to the daily podcast from Perplexity, and there's a quality control team. It's all like AI voices and AI generated, but every now and then something will slip by and it sounds like, oh, that's AI voices. So hopefully the quality control team's going to kind of crush it here.
It's kind of interesting, and I'm looking forward to just seeing how it plays out. And it probably doesn't qualify as a miracle on ice, but I must admit it's pretty cool.
I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Jonathan Costa.
I like that. And this is ChatEDU, a podcast about AI in K-12 education. In today's episode, Gemini Splashdown. Will Google dominate AI in education next year? We'll explore 2 big moves from Google that will potentially redefine the educational landscape for K-12 in the years ahead.
But first in the news, Matt and I will unpack a new announcement from OpenAI and Arianna Huffington's Thrive Global about their partnership on Thrive AI, an AI-infused health coach.
Then Jonathan will introduce a framework for schools thinking about AI anchored around the 3 C's: conceptual understanding, capacity, and curiosity.
And then we'll go beneath the surface as we look at how Google may reign supreme and what that means for Microsoft via Khan Academy and Magic School AI. And then we'll end with another short stack chatback.
So Jonathan, truly dedicated listeners to ChatEDU will know just a few things about you, assuming they don't know you already. So they know that you have a very food-motivated dog named Vicky, right? I think they just had a play date.
They're in one now, actually.
Oh, the timing is amazing, right? And if you're really dedicated to this podcast, you might get all the way to the end and hear that Jonathan shares that he is the executive director of our regional nonprofit educational service center.
That's exactly right, Matt. I recently assumed the role of executive director at EdAdvance and also have been playing the caboose on the ChatEDU train where the end credit connoisseurs get to hear me say to please tell your friends about ChatEDU. So now I get to say it up front. Please tell your friends about ChatEDU.
And he means please, people. It's neat, actually. I was expecting the summer where we can go like, boo! And our Spotify subscribers grew by like 20 in the last week. So keep at it, folks. We really appreciate it. So perfect. We're going to learn a few things about you today. And folks will have an opportunity to hear a complete interview with you talking all about teaching and learning in August. So let's talk about the non-work stuff today for a little bit. I mean, there's no other way to say this. You're basically a sports and fitness-oriented guy.
Well, yes, I would say guilty as charged. In my younger years, this manifested itself as a useful pursuit of better running and bike race times, lower golf scores, tournament wins, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So with all the, gabillion miles that you've ridden on your bike and the umpteen club championship wins, I know you're also tracking all this stuff, right? You measure a whole lot of data about every mile, every swing, every calorie.
So I'm not as fastidious about that as I used to be. But the truism about what gets measured gets done is as pertinent for me personally as it is for organizations. There are certain rules of success that know no boundaries between personal and professional life. And for me, this is certainly one of them.
I love that phrase, what gets measured gets done. I mean, I don't think we reflect on that enough in its reality.
It could be more about what gets measured gets focused on, but it almost always then also means what it gets done.
Right. It could be it gets measured and totally ignored.
Right, exactly.
Maybe
exactly.
More often than not.
Yeah. Over the last few years, I made a transition to using AI-powered apps to support enhancements in all the areas I mentioned. I mean, cycling, personal fitness, golf. In each of these domains, there are multiple apps that will help you take your goals, your personal characteristics, your level of expertise and experience, and then just suggest personalized strategies or improvement plans for you. And then as you provide your data and results, the apps will then adjust and adapt their recommendations as your record of performance changes.
That's cool.
There are several gym apps like Fitbod, Smart Gym, Athletic for flexibility and yoga. There's Swarkit. On the bike, the Garmin ecosystem integrates GPS tracking with heart rate and VO2 max monitoring, as well as course mapping and training ride recommendations. And when your ride's over, it displays your distance, elevation. If you have a power meter, it'll tell you your watts per kilogram of power you outputted. Garmin is also in the golf space, as well as a system called Arcos. They put a little tracker on each of your clubs, and you can collect more swing data than you can possibly imagine.
That is crazy. That is so much stuff. It's interesting. Like, I'm a serious fitness guy, but honestly, I don't track a thing, which is making me reflect a little bit here. But I feel a little lazy, but maybe also at peace. I mean, John, do you ever think about the privacy component here? You're handing over quite a lot of data to these tools, these apps, these systems.
Not for these data, no. I mean, financial, medical stuff, I'd probably give that a second thought. But for this, I think the exposure to me that comes from some all-knowing data man in the sky or woman in the sky knowing that I shot 72 on Sunday or spent 15 minutes in zone 4 when I rode my bike on Saturday is pretty low. When the downside privacy risk there may be, I believe it's outweighed by the benefits I know I can take from it.
Yeah, that totally makes sure. I mean, regardless, I'm not sure I could have the personal discipline to do all that tracking and analysis. But of course, that's changing too, right? I mean, as you've shared, we're handing off more and more utility, perhaps power to technology to help us grab, track, and measure, and analyze all this stuff, all this data. And as we know, AI can be the killer app. Actually, might be the wrong phrase choice there, but let's carry on, right? So, how does it make meaning of all the data now with generative AI, where we basically have the ability to kind of talk to our data in the way we might talk to a fitness coach or even a doctor?
Yes, I mean, that's exactly right. And as an avid listener of ChatEDU, I follow along with your news and announcements every week because I know this field is growing so quickly, so I want to stay on top of what's happening.
Yeah, I want to underscore this is not just puffery, right? Liz and I get a text or email every Friday that the pod drops, some of you may know, at 5 a.m., right? So typically by like 7:30 on Friday, I get a comment, which so far they've always been nice, which is nice. It doesn't have to stay that way. But I mean, really, if I don't hear from you by 9, John, I'm like, is he okay? But anyhow, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No worries. I'm just the guest host. You can interrupt all that you want.
Okay.
But I was going to say that it's been fascinating to hear the multiple stories you've covered with respect to AI and health. And you and Liz do a nice job differentiating between different types of AI when it comes to health stuff. There's the big data, deep learning AI that's helped with drug discovery and the development and early detection of anything from Parkinson's to ear infections for the little ones. Mm-hmm. I was also interested to discover the recent study you shared where actors were either interacting with doctors or Google's Gemini, which is like a ChatGPT that is custom trained on a treasure trove of medical data. And by pretty convincing numbers, I think I remember you said the actors, as well as some researchers who were reviewing the data, scored the chatbot as more effective on a wide range of measures.
Right. So this is interesting. I mean, I've got some funky medical stuff that's going on personally. I've been able to put a bunch of symptoms and data into ChatGPT, knowing full well there's a privacy issue there. But nonetheless, it yields really interesting results and insights that I've not been able to get from my primary care doctor or specialist that I'm working with. And it's a tricky space. There's both privacy concerns and the reality that these AI systems or chatbots make stuff up. I mean, I'm putting in my own data, and I don't want them to hallucinate on that.
Hey, wait a minute. I thought Liz was trying to train you to say confabulate.
Yeah, she is. And Jonathan, it is not sticking, right?
I really like confabulate, though, I must say.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of fun to say hallucinate. Anyhow, however you say it, there is a real risk here. But with wearables and AI, there may be an opportunity to make measurable improvement in folks' health, which is great on a personal level, but kind of mind-blowing when you think about the potential upside to help folks collectively with their health. I just read that the next generation of Android Samsung Galaxy watches and their rings, which is cool, just drop it on your finger, will have all their AI-related health apps as native, which really the Apple Watch has done for years. And the focus there is less on the workout warriors like yourself, but rather the 130 million Americans with chronic diseases. Jonathan, we spend, I think it's $4.1 trillion, like with a T, on healthcare each year in the U.S. alone. And can you guess what percentage of that goes into supporting folks with chronic diseases like obesity, hypertension, high cholesterol, heart disease, COPD, mental health challenges? I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah, boy, that's a tough one. I don't know, 50%.
Yeah, it's actually 90%,
Yikes.
Right?
Yeah.
And while the whole range of AI tech CEOs that are motivated partly by the size of that market, there's also a real opportunity to improve people's lives and at the same time address this colossal healthcare spending in the U.S. And, this is a U.S.-focused conversation. We're really challenged by this in a more significant way than some of our global peers. But nonetheless, by addressing these root causes around chronic disease through preventative measures and effective management strategies, we could not only improve the quality of life for millions of Americans, but also alleviate the financial burden on our healthcare system.
Yeah, we do live in the most expensive healthcare economy in the world, and it can be scary to be in a position when the wrong sickness at the wrong time for the wrong person can lead to bankruptcy. So, Matt, I mentioned in our lead that OpenAI and Arianna Huffington's Thrive Global have partnered to create Thrive AI. I gather they are targeting this huge group here in the U.S. and probably globally with these chronic conditions that can, in fact, be improved with health and behavior changes. And I don't mean that they need to ride 3,000 miles each year.
Oh, good. They'll be relieved to hear that.
But what's their plan?
Yeah, so far this is just an announcement, right? And we don't know all the details. Thrive AI aims to create a hyper-personalized AI health coach that offers expert-level guidance on managing chronic disease as well as mental health and deliver, hopefully improved health outcomes while addressing health inequities. The platform is going to use AI to nudge people, like little reminders, to adopt healthier habits based on their biometric data, but also their lab results and their personal medical health records. I mean, here again, we're going to have to do some serious thinking about privacy issues, but there's a lot of potential upside. There's going to be personal recommendations on sleep and food and fitness and stress management and social connection, which is really interesting. We often worry that these AI tools are going to isolate folks. But we've said for a while, if your AI bot that you pay for is trying to advocate for your own outcomes, if social connection's part of the outcome, it's going to encourage you to put the damn phone down and do something with a friend. Go play some golf, right?
Right.
The thing that OpenAI is really bringing to this is these generative conversational models. So that's where that, interact with me like a coach or a doctor and talk to me and have this very human experience around my health data could be a big unlock. And hopefully their aim is to improve things like hallucinations and some of the limitations of the current systems, and they better pull that off. So obviously, Jonathan, there's a few reasons I wanted to cover this story. I mean, one, it certainly pairs nicely with some of your core habits, your values, and just your approach to life as our very first ever guest co-host.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, right. But it's also really interesting to explore the connection between this type of intervention and K-12 education. You could think about all the different things that Thrive AI is seeking to do and see how it pairs very closely to some of the efforts we're making with AI in K-12 education.
I was thinking the same thing as you were ticking through their aspirations on Thrive AI. It'll be interesting to me to see if they can pick up on the things that motivate people individually, because I know for myself, I have a lot of self-directed motivation and I don't need a lot of external coaching. That's why when I went to your spin class in Lakeville that time, you were egging on everybody and I was just in my own private Idaho just pedaling as hard as I could.
You should have seen this, folks. Like my spin class, I mean, we're TMI here, but there's a lot of like jumping up and down and, I try to keep people entertained. They're riding for an hour on an indoor bike that goes nowhere, right? And this is exactly right. I do that because I need to pass the time, but like serious road cyclists that go to a spin class, they're like, this is silly. I don't jump up and down on an 8 count to, a Donna Summer song.
So, I mean, that's an interesting difference, right? Because some people can benefit from the nudging and other people are annoyed by it. And I wonder if they'll be able to adjust. I mean, as I've shared earlier, I've spent a lot of time chasing related pathways to improve performance and health outcomes. And it's a reminder that one of the most powerful applications of AI is in the arena of self-help. It strikes me that in all the examples that we have discussed today, the common thread is being simply motivated to try to improve, to simply get better at something. This is really the golden age of self-directed improvement. If you want to get better at something, anything, my guess is there's an AI-powered app or prompt that you can use to help guide that pathway to your goals. Relating this back to the reason we're all here, K-12 education, it's a pretty short walk from wanting your ability to cycle up a hill to wanting to become a better writer, a better problem solver, a better mathematician. You have a goal, you produce work, you get feedback, you see a pathway to improvement. If you have a goal and the motivation to achieve it, there has never been as many tools available to help you get there, regardless of your age or previous experience.
Yeah, that's such a good insight. And I wonder if the differentiator from everything that we've worked on before is going to be the relationship. I mean, I think Liz and I talk about this a lot, but we're like, my version of Hey Pi is not personalized to me. It doesn't know me yet, but in a year it will. It's going to know everything about me.
Yep.
I'm going to feel this affinity towards it. Hopefully I'm going to have like a clear emotional boundary where I know it's an AI bot, but its ability, I think, to motivate me will be different than any nudge I've ever received in my life. Because I talk to it, it talks to me, I get value from that conversation. So if it's like, Matt, what the hell? You haven't been on your spin bike one morning this whole week.
Yep.
I'm going to take that a lot more seriously than some nudge that like pops up on my phone. It's going to be fascinating to see.
So Matt, what is the differentiator between these early market entrants and the new proposed Thrive AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's mostly focused, right? Thrive AI has all these major partnerships with some of the most important foundations and healthcare systems in the U.S. So it's operating, coming in the door at a whole different scale. But I'm super mindful this is just an announcement from OpenAI. And I've learned to take announcements from this particular company with 1,000,000 grains of salt and a whole bunch of patience. So we'll see.
Yes, we will.
All right, Jonathan, let's switch gears and focus specifically on AI in the K-12 education space. You personally have been doing lots of thinking about this task from a systems perspective, which is consistent with a lot of your work, right? You work with leadership teams and superintendents and organizations, school boards. So tell us about this whole 3C framework you've been developing.
Sure. Well, as folks who are familiar with our agency know, we have used a 3Cs framework created by our previous executive director, Jeff Kitching, to help us provide an organizational focus. At the agency level, those are culture, connections, and customization. And we use this to articulate our agency belief that if we have a positive work culture, make strong personal connections with our constituents, and customize our work to meet their needs, we will be successful. Coincidentally, I also serve as an accreditation leader for NEASC International Schools, and that model, believe it or not, uses 4 different C's to provide the same kind of reflection framework.
C's.
So many C's. But having witnessed the positive impact of these structures in both contexts, it didn't take a real genius level shock to have at least a little dim light bulb of insight go off in my brain that this kind of approach might help school districts or building level leaders conceptualize the challenges of planning for the implementation of AI tools for the purpose of improved student achievement. I mean, I know it can be so overwhelming to try to anticipate all of the challenges of this journey, so I was looking for a way to try to make it more manageable.
Nice.
So for the purposes of AI, I would propose that there are 3 C's that matter most. Conceptual understanding of what it is and what its potential is, capacity, the ability to use it and manipulate it to help you achieve your goals, and finally, curiosity, the flexibility of thinking required to question established patterns of behavior and seek out improvements that can fuel positive implementation. I'm not saying or pretending that this construct is all there is to it.
Sure.
My argument would be, however, that if you have systematically considered these 3 ideas as you approach your planning, you're probably going to be ahead of the curve organizationally and will most likely encounter fewer self-imposed implementation mistakes as you pursue your AI strategy.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. I mean, let's dig in a little bit more. Do you want to talk in more detail about how you think about each of these?
Well, okay, thanks. Conceptual understanding to me begins with being able to explain what a large language model is and how it differs from other AI engines. Additionally, this understanding must extend to the implications for this technology and how might it impact goals for learning as well as implications for instruction and assessment. For capacity, I think about organizational capacity is one way that a learning community demonstrates its conceptual understanding of AI and its commitment to that journey. When the learning community shifts its resources to build capacity, it sends a message to everyone that this work is important and that the organization is behind the effort. And finally, my favorite is curiosity, because I think the cultural support and systemic celebration of curiosity leads to insightful questions and innovative solutions, because a deeper understanding of problems and challenges can be developed and is essential for building effective AI systems in all learning environments. That curious mindset helps create an AI model application that are better at learning from new information and improving over time. And by embedding curiosity into their culture and processes, organizations can drive innovation, enhance problem solving, and stay competitive in a range of really quickly changing technology landscape. I've started to develop a document that we can use to frame these conversations with sort of like a developmental continuum over all 3 Cs. And I'd be really interested in getting some educational leaders' feedback and try to kick the tires on it and make it better so it could possibly benefit others down the road. And if it passes musters with our colleagues in the field, it could potentially be part of our content sharing in our upcoming AI community of practice, or even in the micro-credential cohorts that are coming this fall.
Yeah, I think it'd be perfect for all these kind of vehicles, and I'm digging the framework. I think it's really neat. For me, it's always this, like, the devil's in the details, which I kind of hate that phrase at some level. It's like the unlock is in the details, the opportunity. I agree with you. Curiosity is the most fun to think about here. But in all these, capacity, we can think about, what does it really look like for a student to learn differently in the world with AI? How will teacher roles shift? How will board member and school administrator roles shift? So I like to think about capacity by role.
The devil in the details is an interesting framework up to the point where it stops you from trying something.
Right, because the word devil's like, oh, don't do it.
Exactly. So you stop rather than understanding that the place that you're going is where you want to get to, and you have to navigate the details to get there.
Right.
So whatever comes up, we can do it together. People of goodwill who share the same goals, the same values, can work through the details on their way to their organizational success.
People of goodwill can get that done. I love that, right? So it's true of all these, especially the capacity and the culture, right? The conceptual understanding, the big rub there for us has been just, and you said it, is just helping folks differentiate between the type of AI, as we said before, that will help you, do early detection on Parkinson's versus the one that lets you have a conversational experience.
Right, exactly.
And it's just important that people get that because they're both different and super important. But then for capacity and curiosity, it is people of goodwill, being willing to redefine the roles of folks given this new opportunity. And especially around curiosity, how curious are you? Are you curious enough to really rethink what kids need to know and be able to do? Are you curious enough to reimagine, what happens when the assistant principal who builds the schedule has a tool that does it for them? How do they redeploy that time? Or will fundamental role shift with people time, money, and budgets happen? So yeah, I think this is a great framework, and I'll look forward to, more conversations around it.
So, anyone who's interested in learning more about this framework can reach out to you, Liz, or myself, and set up a follow-up.
And how do you get us? It's ChatEDU at edadvance.org. I don't know why we picked such a hard URL to spell, but so that's ChatEDU, that part's easy, at edadvance.org. And John and I and Liz, we're really just our last names at edadvance.org.
Okay, Matt, as Liz always says, it's time to go beneath the surface.
I don't think she says it with that much baritone, but yeah.
With our AI and education deep dive.
You're crushing it here, dude. If Liz wins the lottery or, becomes a professional synchronized swimming judge, we might have a really solid backup.
I don't think I have the time based on what it took to create this episode. So I think I'm very glad to hand it back to Liz after this week.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's be frank. We've both been at this work in education, and by frank, let's just admit that we're old, right? So we've both been at this work in education and really ed tech for quite a while. We started our work together right about the time that the internet hit. I recall using email not far from where we're recording this episode on a pretty regular basis here in the early 90s. And I got to say, folks, like little confession, I was cranky.
Kicking and screaming, as I recall.
Totally. I mean, at that time, I was like a Grateful Dead, outdoorsy, kind of guy. I just moved back east from Montana. And one of my main gigs here involved running an experiential learning program.
That's correct. I remember that well. You helped build a ropes course up on the hill on our property here in Litchfield, and you led lots of students and adult team building programs through that course. And I definitely remember your digital skepticism at that time.
That is a nice way of putting it. I was really a total Luddite. I mean, I would fuss at the utility of this whole email thing. I mean, a lot has changed for me personally. And although, had I known, Jonathan, how much of my day would revolve around email now, I would have pushed back even harder then.
I understand.
I mean, you, on the other hand, you were all in from the start. I mean, I recall you had like the first bag phone at the agency.
I did.
You were always an early adopter of technologies across the board. John, for our younger listeners, do you want to briefly explain what a bag phone was?
Yes, of course. That was what we fondly referred to as the first mobile car phone. You actually had to plug it into your car's cigarette lighter. Now, that'll age both of us because the phone did not have its own battery. Yes, kids, cars used to have cigarette lighters and ashtrays, and the device itself was big enough that if you looked at it, you would think you had a black grocery bag in your car's front seat.
Right, exactly. So fast forward a decade, I was leading one of the first one-to-one laptop initiatives in the United States, and you were writing and then published a book with Corwin on BYOD, or Bring Your Own Device, which is funny in the Yonder Pouch world that we're in.
Yes, exactly. A book, Digital Learning for All Now, was published in 2011 and was my attempt to convince folks that letting kids bring their own devices to school was the best and fastest way to get to one-to-one. It got some traction at the time, but little did I know that 10 years later, a pandemic and 8 months of remote learning would finally get everyone pretty much to one-to-one.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about having 3 or maybe 4 decades in education is the ability to look at these trends over time. And as you look back, it becomes apparent that change is constant, but pretty often what's new is just an old idea with a fresh coat of paint.
You know, that's totally true and fair. And in some cases, the original idea goes back quite a ways. I mean, you were doing experiential learning in the early 90s. John Dewey advocated for learning by doing in the very early 20th century. Right. You know, and we've had popular waves of project-based learning, which has been repackaged in loads of different labels, including challenge-based learning, problem-based learning, performance assessments, and the like. And I know you and Liz have carried that banner proudly. Your Skills 21 team has been nationally recognized leader in project-based learning for nearly 25 years, including really terrific work in the area of capstone courses and personal interest projects. Folks can learn more about your work at skills21.org.
Ooh.
For me, the biggest difference from Dewey time until recent years was that it always seemed like this was an argument between those that saw rote traditional learning as the best tried and true instructional method and those advocates of learning by doing. But I've really come to feel lately, with the generative AI in the picture, I really can't see how it's even a fair fight anymore.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And by the way, folks, did you see that little skills21.org drop-in? I mean, this guy's a pro. Bravo. All right, so getting back to said waves, there's a lot of chatter about personalized learning right now, which is probably cited most often by AI and tech CEOs as the great promise. You know, every kid's going to have the world's best AI tutor in their pocket, which we'll talk more about. But in reality, I mean, this goes back to Maria Montessori. She came up with the first, in the early 1900s, the first individualized learning plans for self-paced education. And now personalized learning has all sorts of tech, adaptive learning technologies, data analytics, really trying to tailor things for each student's need and support with a high-tech upgrade to, I guess, Montessori's principles. I wonder what she would think. I mean, Sal Khan's video that I mentioned before with his son using ChatGPT-4, it has voice and vision, right? It's looking at the student doing a math problem and talking to him and interacting with the way he manipulates that math problem on the screen. If you haven't seen it, it's easy to find on YouTube. The thing was put up like a month ago, Jonathan, and I think there's nearly 2 million views. So if you haven't seen it, we'll drop it into the show notes.
And I'll say, for anyone who did not hear the episode that you're referring to, I really like the way that you and Liz put that video and the overall practice of AI tutors in context. And I believe that episode title was Total Recall.
That's
and
correct.
You made the case that despite some major hand-wringing, AI tutors are probably not going to take teachers' jobs, but they will most likely provide a new tool for teachers and create new opportunities for teachers and help them focus on the skills that really matter most. I mean, for anyone who missed it, it's worth a listen.
He's in the swing of things, my friends. All right, we could go on. Competency-based learning goes all the way back to apprenticeships, really, and the mastery of necessary skills in order to progress from one stage to another. And we've seen lots of repackaging of this approach over the years. I mean, even distance learning and MOOCs, the massively online courses, go back to the original correspondence by mail, meaning snail mail, right? I mean, Jonathan, do you want to explain snail mail for any student listeners that we have?
Sure. So back in the Stone Age, before snaps and DMs, people used an ancient form of communication called snail mail. It was a mysterious system where you'd write a message on a piece of tree pulp called paper, fold it up, stuff it in an envelope, give it to a magical person known as a mailman who would help get it to your destination. Kids today will never know the excitement of waiting weeks for a reply that's just a simple yeah or fine by me.
Yeah, no, I think the kids say it like, yeah.
Yeah.
The kids in my house, I sent a text this morning, and one of the kids responded just with, yeah. All right, I love it. And don't get us started on reading. This is the waviest of the waves, right? Today, it's the science of reading. I love how many times we've had an evidence-based model. Like,
yes.
Oh, that evidence-based model from George Bush, that's different than this evidence-based, because now it's science, Jonathan.
It's science.
Science, right? So now it's phonics, fluency, vocab.
I guess the trick is knowing which wave is just another wave that you can, just safely watch from the shore, and which one is actually going to be so substantial that it's probably going to get you wet, whether you like it or not.
I like that.
The whole discussion reminds me of a song we actually recorded in the beginning of our work together in this very same building.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
I actually sent Ahmed the song Don't Change This, which we recorded on our School Songs 101 album. Should we have a listen?
Do I have a choice?
No, as your executive director, you do not.
Okay, Ahmed, let's hear it. Oh, my God.
Don't change this one's working fine. Don't change that, one more thing will blow our minds. Please understand us, it's not the change we feared. Sure be nice to do something for more than just 1 year.
Year? How about a month? Hey, did you see your new schedule? Well, how long have you been here?
2.5 years?
2.5 years, and that's what, our 5th different schedule?
I'd say 6, 7.
6 schedules, man. Who's our principal now?
Feinstein.
No, that's the superintendent.
Oh, right. He's interim?
Interim contract superintendent. We just got the new principal. But I don't even know who the heck he is. Hey, wait. Who are you?
All right. That was, despite my trepidation, that was actually pretty great. I haven't heard that in a while. It's funny how the songs that we did in this tiny little recording studio in Dalton, Massachusetts, up in the Berkshires, with basically my bar band in the 1990s, they pretty much hold up today. And that song, folks, you'd have to hear the whole thing, but it was kind of Jonathan's gift to me, right? He was sending me out to do, it's about this time of year, to do back to school convocations on God knows what. I looked like I was 12 years old, and I was presenting to teachers who had so much more experience than I did. And so songs like Don't Change This or No Not My Johnny, which is the defensive, mother's defense of a naughty kid, or the one I really used the most was Professional Development Blues. It kind of disarmed the audience, and it helped set me up for success. Now, the killer song that Jonathan wrote and we put on this album was These Duties Waste My Time, which, if you'll recall, I'm sure you do, was set to the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
That's right.
Right? How did it go? All together now, right?
Right.
No, I can't, 'cause I'm on duty. I want to teach, you must believe me. Instead, I'm told I have to watch the lunchroom bus and halls. These duties waste my time.
There was a harmony in there, but I can't do that one on the spot.
I know.
Oh my God, it's awesome. All right, so actually, let's Ahmed, do me a favor. Let's drop that one in after Jonathan reads the outro at the very end. Don't fast forward, but if you want to stick around, it's
we had a good time with
Yeah, it was. Another variation on this theme that we've noticed over the decades, right, is all about the business side of education. You can't help notice that every aspect of our work, there are basically companies supporting some part of teaching and learning or school administration or operations, and if they're successful, the market does what the market does, especially right in the United States. So originally you might have 50, providers, and then you've got 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, that's right. A decade ago we had lots of student information management systems, and now we basically have PowerSchool, Infinite Campus, and a few small ones that sort of, nibble around the edges. In the learning management space, we have Canvas, Google Classroom, and Schoology.
Right, and if you look at the one-to-one hardware space, Apple owned that in the early 2000s, starting with Maine's first one-to-one, then the ones we did up in Massachusetts. And today, Google's got like 85% of the market share on Chromebooks.
Yeah, that's right. And as I mentioned earlier, the pandemic certainly juiced that element of market share for Google. You had so many schools that were already using Google Apps or Google Docs, and they needed hardware fast. And Google's market with that low-priced, highly functional, internet-capable device was affordable and really a generally acceptable solution. So, Matt, in your cup of tea that you sip on while we record, do your leaves tell you anything about how that might work in the educational AI field?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think we're about to see history repeat itself. We have a bunch of startups in this space like Magic School, School AI, EduAid, and a few others. And frankly, like Magic School is crushing it in the early days. Just in the U.S., they have a couple 100,000 teachers. Globally, I think it's something like 3 million. And they've got 4,000 schools here in the United States. And certainly when I'm on the road working with schools, that's the one I hear about, right? I'm not 100% sure if this is true, but I think Magic School is the fastest growing ed tech startup in history.
That's really kind of amazing. I mean, for some of us of a certain age, it's really hard to hear Magic School without the word bus following it.
I have people who call it Magic Bus all the time.
Yeah. So I guess that makes sense since generative AI, originally fueled by ChatGPT, is the fastest growing technology in history, like by a wide margin.
Right. In the case of Magic School, I mean, there's a lot of room to grow, right? They've got 100,000 teachers. There's nearly 4 million teachers in the U.S. And 4,000 schools is remarkable in by any measure in a short period of time. But there are over 130,000 schools in the U.S., and here comes Google, which has 85% of the market share already.
And if we should say anything, over 50% is simply massive.
Right.
I mean, even in the LMS space, which is pretty consolidated, the top 3 players split up about 75% of the market evenly. There's really no equivalent to Google's market share. And so, Matt, with what Google has announced, I gather whatever it is, you think it'll let them leverage their hold on that market.
Yeah, no, that's right. The details are still emerging, but given Google's market dominance with Chromebooks, and then couple that with the fact that, as John just said, they have about a third of the learning management system with Google Classroom, there's a lot of potential impact. So Google is continuing to pull back the veil on something they call Learn LM. There's a white paper that's pretty detailed that you can find out. But at ISTE, about 3-4 weeks ago, the announcement was pretty much on the teacher productivity features.
Well, that seems like the sweet spot to start in any of these conversations, right? So while I think you and I have both hoped that all of these tech innovations we've been sharing with schools over the full arcs of our careers could make a teacher's life easier, this may be the one with the most promise. Although you must admit that Google's early forays into the public-facing AI space have not been stellar.
What, you don't like glue on your pizza?
I love to eat rocks.
All right, we'll come back to the rocks. I mean, it's true. I've been blown away. It's fascinating to share out among teachers on the productivity side, right? I always do a thing where teachers and administrators will talk about how they've been using these tools. And the bottom line is that people will just say that it's either saved them time in substantive ways or allowed them to do things for kids that they haven't been able to do before, at least not in that way. And it's really fun to watch the new users in the room who are unfamiliar with these tools take that in. I mean, it's one thing for me to say, oh, generative AI is going to help you build a rubric or write a lesson plan or differentiate instruction or do translation or vision, I mean, all sorts of stuff. But it's way more powerful when they hear it from a peer. So, right, Google's playing catch up here, but with this Learn LM, it basically looks like they're heading into the Magic School space for teachers. And they're also catching up with Khan Academy, right? That's the Khanmigo for teachers, which Microsoft has made free with, I guess I would call the benevolence of Microsoft support.
It's kind of crazy that the company that literally invented the T, the transformer, in ChatGPT is playing catch up here. And if you're wondering where the rock eating and pizza glue references came from, you may have missed a recent ChatEDU episode, Dear AI, Slow the Heck Down. It's worth a listen as it chronicles many of these Google faux pas. And hey, I notice a pattern here. All your episodes are worth a listen.
He's gold, people. He's gold. Yeah, no, it's for sure. They are playing catch up with School AI, Magic School, Khanmigo. Maybe we should call it Micromigo with the Microsoft thing.
That's so bad.
I mean, Satya Nadella from Microsoft was basically quoted, and it got around, saying about Google, I want to make them dance.
Yeah. Don't you think Micromigo means like small friend, though?
Yeah, that's true. That's not going to work. Good point. All right, so now Google's announced some stuff that's really interesting on the student side. So Google is essentially making Gemini through their workspace available to all students. And this is kind of huge. I shouldn't say all students. It's going to be really all teens, right? They're releasing responsible Gemini experience for teens in their personal Google accounts. And they've consulted with lots of folks, child safety experts, lots of AI experts, and they've taken a lot of additional measures. So it's just not like the free-range, consumer-facing Gemini, but instead ones that really custom designed for students. So let's talk a little bit about what that's going to look like. Okay, so first, there's some additional guardrails here. It's kind of tuned to identify content that may be inappropriate for teen users. So, it won't talk about illegal substances. Well, really, the general Gemini won't talk about much either, but this one's got additional guardrails. I love this part. There's this thing called the double check response feature, and I can't wait to see how it works. But it is essentially when a student goes to Gemini and asks a fact-based question, Gemini will automatically run this double check feature, which is essentially going to some ground truth. It's trying to substantiate whatever it is that the large language model is using this predictive, next word prediction to make sure it's true, right? There's going to be a teen-friendly onboarding experience in Gemini with a literacy video. And then this part's coming later, but there will be a learning coach. So this is a custom version of Gemini powered by the LearnLM element we talked about before that will help kids build knowledge by providing step-by-step study guidance along with things like practice activities or quizzes. This is really the Conmigo, don't answer the question for the kid, but help the kid figure it out. The kids don't like that, by the way.
Sure, right? I understand. Yeah. But this is going to be free for every kid. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I mean, I wonder if this is the Google AI Trojan horse, right? Get free for every kid now, and how much longer will be free for every kid? You wonder.
Well, and if you're a district, you're basically there's some sunk cost for being inside the whole Google ecosystem.
Sure.
Teacher-facing AI is a big and important part of the equation, but student-facing AI is massive. I mean, right now, Magic School AI is charging, I think, $4 a year per kid, plus site licenses, onboarding, all that good stuff. School AI is doing the same thing, and other small providers. But look, I mean, the Microsoft Work Trends report that Liz and I have cited several times here is the driver. If 61% of employers, I mean, for starters, 75% of all knowledge workers are saying that they're using generative AI on a regular basis around the globe, right? And 61% of employers see generative AI as a key workforce skill. So the important thing is to have a tool that you like and you feel comfortable with. I don't want to squabble over the platform stuff or cost. It's simply critical that we start rolling out safe, ethical, and productive uses of AI, full stop. Kids have to have the skills and experience and the ethics to use these tools as they leave our high schools. But you can't ignore when Google just enters into this space.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Conmigo for teachers, but they also have a pretty robust student-facing AI tool. Where are they in this mix?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been curious about it. So Conmigo does have this student-facing tool, much more expensive, not $4 a year. It's $4 a month, $44 a year with a discount. But it's really targeting so far, I mean, at ISTE and in their marketing copy, they're targeting families and kids directly. They're saying this can be a tool for you to accelerate your learning. And we'll see if they eventually wind up kind of backing into the space.
That's sort of the one of our ongoing concerns around equity, right? So families who have these resources get to provide them to their students, to their children, and they get those advantages, while those who don't have any access at all are sort of left behind on that.
100%.
Okay, gotcha. So the big unanswered question here, with especially the student-facing tools, is obviously privacy. I mean, I know here in Connecticut we have very strict laws regarding student data privacy, and there really are only a few student-facing tools that are currently approved for schools, your AI Sidekick being one of them.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that was my first question, too. I mean, if you geek out on this stuff, you'll know that a key principle of data privacy with respect to students in AI is all about what's called the training data, right? Every time you and I are chatting with ChatGPT or Claude or Pi or whatever, everything we go back and forth with is part of their training data. So they use that to make the system smarter. It's not just like by giving it a thumbs up, thumbs down. They're tracking every word, and it makes the models more robust. But in the student data privacy world, that's a big no-no, right? Students, you can't take students' data and train on them. It's essentially illegal by both federal and state statute in many states. And so that was really like the first or second bullet when Google announced this new Gemini for Students, is that nothing a kid does is going to go into the training data.
Okay, I gotcha. That makes sense. So what else should they be doing from your point of view? I mean, the Skills 21 team, as I just said, has been doing student-facing AI in a legally privacy-oriented, approved way. Mm-hmm. Are you comfortable with Google's announcement?
Well, mayhaps. I mean, we're going to have to see what it actually looks like. The idea of this double check feature, I love. I mean, I think that's great.
Yeah, the hallucinations are that issue, right?
Yeah. I mean, I hope every generative AI provider is going to do that. I like the AI embedded ethics and literacy video on onboarding. I suspect there's opportunities to do more of that. I mean, in our system, we have 7 unique prompts or strategies that kids practice. And in each one of those, because they're not all the same, there's a video that helps them understand the opportunity and sometimes the challenges. So maybe the prompt is around co-writing with AI or using AI for summarization or getting feedback on writing. So I'd love to see more of that kind of instructional stuff. Maybe Learn LM will do that. The one thing I don't see from this Gemini announcement or Google announcement is something that Magic School has, Magic School AI has, and really every responsible AI provider that's student-facing, as far as I'm concerned, which is the ability for teachers to see the chats with the kids in the AI system.
Yes, I mean, I can see why that's critical. I mean, we're all learning to use this stuff, but if teachers can't view and provide feedback and understand whether their student interaction with the AI is on track, there's a huge assessment and feedback opportunity that would be missed.
Right. So we'll see where it goes. It seems like Gemini for Students in Google Workspace is step one. There's many more features coming, specifically Google Classroom. And we'll see if it looks a little bit like Conmigo. Maybe that's where we'll see more AI tutor engagements, which would be nice from an equity perspective for those schools that are using it, as you've rightly pointed out. And maybe things like transparency and really seeing the student chat transcripts will happen as well.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds good. Better pedagogical design and safety. And hopefully less rock eating and glue on pizzas.
I love it. Maybe that's the tagline. Gemini for Teens, introducing safe, ethical, and productive student-facing AI with 0% rock eating.
Excellent. Okay, for our chat back this week, we'll examine our Beneath the Surface deep dive, exploring how Google's coming possible dominance in the AI for education space is really part of the long tail of capitalism, where a handful of companies come to dominate any given space. Here again, we'll turn to Claude, as brought to life by 11 Labs, as Claude answers the prompt, analyze how Google's expanding dominance in the education sector, particularly with its recent AI initiatives, exemplifies broader trends in modern capitalism. Consider how this fits into the pattern of large tech companies displacing startups and consolidating control over entire industries. Discuss the potential implications for innovation, competition, and the future of education. And please do this in no more than 3 sentences, and do so in the writing style of John D. Rockefeller.
I mean, it's not general intelligence yet, but the fact that you can have that prompt and be like, 3 sentences, John D. Rockefeller, it kind of crushes it.
In the grand symphony of progress, Google's masterful conquest of education, now emboldened by the marvels of artificial intelligence, stands as a testament to the inexorable march of industrial consolidation. Just as we, in our time, brought order to the chaos of disparate oil ventures, so too does Google gather the scattered seeds of knowledge under its mighty aegis, brushing aside the well-meaning but inefficient startups that lack the resources to truly revolutionize learning. While some may decry this concentration of power, I say it is but the natural order of things, for only through such centralization can we hope to achieve the economies of scale necessary to bring the light of education to every corner of this great nation, and indeed, the world.
All right, so in the immortal words of Marty McFly, man, that's heavy. As always, we'd love to hear what you think. Please let us know at ChatEDU@edadvance.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. Thank you, Matt, for having me. And once again, on behalf of the agency, I want to extend my appreciation to you and Liz and the whole ChatEDU team for doing such a great job with this pod. Matt, it seems like we get together behind the mic once every 10 years or so. Let's not wait that long for the next one.
No, let's not. This has been a blast, and I have a high degree of confidence we'll be doing it again. Thanks so much, Jonathan.
Yeah, my pleasure, Matt.
Ton of fun. Let's roll the credits.
ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Ahmed Malik, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson. Gary is the ChatEDU Design and Outreach Ginsu Knife, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. Finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
See you next time.
Bye!
Hello, followers of ChatEDU. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am proud to be the Executive Director of EdAdvance, the Regional Educational Service Center in Litchfield, Connecticut. On behalf of Matt, Liz, and our entire agency, I want to thank you for listening and for your interest in this vital educational topic. During the summer, we will continue to drop weekly ChatEDU episodes, some of which will be in a special in-depth interview format with interesting guests that I think you will enjoy. Our regular weekly features will return as the summer winds down, and we hope you will keep an eye out for our in-depth AI community of practice and also our new AI micro-credentials for both teachers and educational leaders during the 24-25 school year. Take care, thanks again, and please tell your friends and colleagues about ChatEDU.
Mr. Costa, can you help me with my homework?
I'd like to, son, but I can't. I've got a bus duty.
Well, gee, thanks for nothing.
No, I can't, 'cause I'm on duty. I want to teach, you must believe me. Instead, I'm told I have to watch the lunchroom, bus, and halls. These duties waste my time. I have seen the bloody lunchroom and the food fly through the air. I have trampled through the ketchup stains, had mustard in my hair. My next class is AP English. I'll have 3 seconds to prepare. These duties waste my time. No, I can't, 'cause I'm on duty. I want to teach, you must believe me. Instead, I'm told I have to watch the lunchroom, bus, and halls. These duties waste my time. I have wandered through the hallways and patrolled the corridors. I have checked inside the lockers and behind each classroom door. I don't want to be a cop, that is not what you pay me for. These duties waste my time. No, I can't, 'cause I'm on duty. I want to teach, you must believe me. Instead, I'm told I have to watch the lunchroom, bus, and halls. These duties waste my time. I pledge allegiance to my duty with all my peers in America. And even though there are more important things to do, right now I have to herd these children onto these buses. I've inhaled the noxious fumes as from the tailpipes they flew. I have stood out in the rain, the wind, and even snowstorms too. I don't do a single thing a border collie couldn't do. These duties waste my time. No, I can't, 'cause I'm on duty. I want to teach, you must believe me. Instead, I'm told I have to watch the lunchroom, bus, and halls. These duties waste my time. No, I can't, 'cause I'm on duty. I want to teach, you must believe me. Instead, I'm told I have to watch the lunchroom, bus, and halls. These duties waste my